They said humans were fragile right before Sergeant Dean Keller bench-pressed their anti-grav unit like it was a warm-up barbell. Now, he stood alone in the center of a sterile, circular chamber. The pressure mat beneath his boots registered his weight as the room's only detail aside from a single digital dial embedded in the smooth metal wall. Above him, through the thick observation glass, rows of alien officers from the Drex Consortium peered down, their expressions unreadable, their intentions anything but. A mechanical hum thrummed to life, a low vibration building as the chamber's artificial gravity ramped up. Current setting, 1 Ponzel standard gravs, a disembodied voice declared. Dean cracked his neck. Warm up, wait. Behind the glass, Commander Raoul narrowed his 4 eyes and tapped a clawed finger against his chin. The smugness in his voice, coiling through the intercom like a snake, increased to 1.5. The hum deepened. Dean flexed his shoulders and exhaled, slowly, still warm. Rolk Raoul snapped, 2.0. The room pressed harder against DNA's frame. The doubled gravity bent his knees, slightly a moment that earned a snicker from one of the Drex engineers. The younger Drex trainees leaned forward eagerly, waiting for the inevitable collapse. But they didn't get it. Instead, Dean dropped into a squat. "That's more like it," he muttered, his voice calm and amused. Raoul's lip curled in disbelief. "Unbelievable," he hissed. DNE looked straight up at the observation pane, grinning. "Make it 3, he challenged. "Let's see what it feels like to jog on Jupiter." A flicker of hesitation passed through the room of aliens. Even among the Drex who had evolved in 1.7 grav environments, tripling galactic standard was considered absurd, reckless. But Raoul's pride had been wounded badly. Just that morning, Dean had embarrassed 2 Drex guards during a training match. Raoul had wanted a demonstration. Instead, he was about to get a revelation. 3.0 gravs. The system confirmed. The chamber groaned in protest. Stabilizers wind as the internal pressure increased. The metal plating beneath DNA's boots creaked audibly. Still, he stood straight, spine aligned, breath steady. Then he exploded into motion, a blur in triple gravity. He sprinted around the circular room, tight and fast, then launched himself 15 feet into the air, grabbing ceiling bars with such force he dented the metal. He dropped back down, not to rest, but to do push-ups, then clapping push-ups, then one-arm claps. "Do we shut it off?" a Drex aide asked, clearly unnerved. Raoul said nothing, his 4 eyes wide. Dean wasn't even winded. Standing in the center of the chamber, chest rising and falling with measured calm, Dean looked straight into the lens. "So, when's the real test?" The silence that followed was heavier than the air he was breathing. But Dean wasn't naive. He knew what this was. He'd read the mission briefings. The Drex wanted leverage. They wanted proof that humans, though allied, were inferior, soft, that Earth's entry into the Galactic Federation should come with conditions, limitations, oversight. But what they were getting instead was something entirely different. When the chamber door finally hissed open, the artificial gravity began to normalize. Dean stepped out, unfazed, his movements fluid. Commander Rolk waited at the end of the hallway, flanked by 2 guards in ceremonial armor, complete with gold trim and shoulder-mounted shock spikes. "You enjoyed that," Raoul said, his tone flat. DNE wiped sweat from his brow. "Not really. 3 grabs is still too light." He tilted his head, casual. "You Drex ever try resistance training with a black hole simulator?" Rolk scowled, and the 2 of them walked in silence. Every Drex they passed stared at Dean like they'd just seen a ghost punch a tank. One technician dropped his tablet. At the end of the hall, they entered the strategic conference deck, where high-ranking officers reviewed combat performance. Footage flickered across displays, combat sims, biometric reads, performance assessments. 3 Drex officers were already there, one of whom Admiral Tross gave Dean a respectful nod. You came from Earth's lunar base? He asked. Yeah, Dean replied. Low gravity, high expectations. Ral made a low sound in his throat. We reviewed your service record. Mars reclamation, Europa breach, Tellus offensive. Busy couple years, Dean said casually. And your people? Trask asked. Do all humans endure gravity tests like today? Dean shrugged. Only the ones who like a challenge. Others stick to ultramarathons on Venus or swimming laps in Neptune's gravity wells. Silence then, slowly. Trask blinked. Perhaps we underestimated human physiology. Dean shook his head. No, he said. You underestimated human motivation. Ralk snorted. Motivation doesn't let a man breathe under 3 gravs. Dean turned, facing him squarely. It does when he's trained in environments designed to break him. When every generation on Earth fought to thrive on a death planet. You ever been to Earth? The weather wants you dead. The ground wants you injured. And the wildlife still thinks you taste good. The room tensed. One of the admirals leaned forward. We didn't expect Earth soldiers to exceed galactic standards. Dean gave a humorless smile. That was your first mistake. We don't stop at expectations. We aim higher, or heavier. Ral's eyes darkened. Let's see if your endurance holds up in combat. Dean just smiled. Hours later, the Drex arena roared with real sirens. Not simulated, not ceremonial, real. The demonstration had been hijacked, converted into a trial, an ambush. No backup, limited ammo, real casualties. The Drex wanted to see what a human would do under pressure. They expected panic. They got precision. Dean moved like a predator through the training zone, gravity still set at 2.5 to slow him down. It only made him fight harder. When a Drex soldier lunged with a shock blade, Dean ducked low, swept the alien's legs, and crushed the blade under his boot before the soldier hit the floor. Rolling into cover, he stole a pulse rifle and dropped 2 more enemies from 20 meters away, above. A surveillance drone recorded everything. Why isn't he stopping? Ralk barked. Trask's voice was quiet, reverent. He's adapting. Every second, he gets faster, more accurate. Another Drex came from behind. Without looking, Dean caught the arm mid-swing, twisted, dislocated it, and flung the attacker into a force field wall. The rest froze. Then, one by one, they dropped. Their weapons.DNE stood in the middle, panting lightly, scanning the room. You done? He asked. Silence. From the observation deck, an admiral whispered. What are they feeding you humans? Dean looked up and grinned. Gravity. He didn't wait for the debrief. While Drex officers scrambled to interpret the data, Dean walked out of the arena, stepping over a stunned medic offering water, and entered the hastily converted human barracks. It was barely more than a storage closet with a bed that didn't fit his height. His boots never fit in Drex chairs either. He began unlacing them when the door chimed. He didn't answer. It opened anyway. Lieutenant Broom entered, one of the few Drex who treated him like a soldier, not a test subject. The young officer's posture was rigid, but his expression held concern. You broke one's ribs, Broom said. Instructor Visik, redskin, 2 blades. Dean nodded, came at me like it was an invitation. Broom's mandibles clicked, softly a Drex sigh. They were told to push you. Simulated stress. Not lethal, just ... difficult. You should have told them Earth does difficult for breakfast. Are you mocking us? Dean stood, stripping off his sweat-soaked jacket. No, I'm telling you what your command refuses to believe. Humans don't fold under pressure. We evolve through it. Broom stepped in closer. You've proven that, but now there's consequence. What? Bruised egos? No? Broadcasts. That training simulation had an uplink. Your performance? It was intercepted. Dean paused. Our enemies saw it. Worse, Broom replied. Our allies did. He activated his datapad. Headlines from alien networks scrolled past. Earth soldier dominates Federation combat test. Primates of terror. Are humans too dangerous? They think I'm a weapon, Dean muttered. They think all of you are. Great. We show strength. We're threats. Show weakness. We're dismissed. Broom's voice lowered. High command's being pressured. Not just to pull you. To pull all human operatives. Are they pulling us off the Phoenix? No, Broom said grimly. They're sending you to them. The transport left that same night. A stealth carrier Drex built, but human-modified, smaller than standard issue, faster, and armored like a meteor. Dean sat alone in the assault pod, strapped in tight, staring at the countdown on the mission. Timer. The cargo hold around him hummed softly, filled with the faint smell of oiled steel and scorched polymers. He was equipped with standard Earth-issue gear, a compression shotgun, a thermal blade, kinetic mesh armor, and a cranial uplink feeding visuals directly to orbiting command. There was no squad, no backup, just a target planet and a directive. Survive long enough for reinforcements to matter. The drop was silent. No fanfare. Scarenfor's cloud layer screamed past the pod's hull, streaking it with fire as he plummeted into the chaos below. He hit dirt hard enough to crater the ground. The pod hissed open, steam pouring out, and Dean stepped into a world made of ashdot. The colony was gone. Twisted metal lay in heaps where infrastructure had once stood. Scorched tracks led toward collapsed defenses and trails of something thick, dark and sticky remnants of the colonists' last stand. There was no wind, just silence, and the distant hiss of molten rock cooling in fissures.dne. Flicked his visor overlay online. Movement south quadrant. Multiple contacts. No heat signatures. The HFY emerged from the ruins slowly, like wraiths stitched from bone. Tall, lean, with exoskeletons that shimmered faintly, even in the dim light. No noise, no rush. Just confident, calculating steps. One hissed. Another clicked its mandibles 3 clicks. Pause. 2 more. A pattern. Dean recognized it from mission briefings. A hunt ritual. He lowered his visor and stepped forward. I'm not prey. The first wave came fast. D&E opened fire. The compression shotgun roared, blowing the first 2 Hechtel into wet heaps of purple viscera. The rest scattered, flanking him, silent and fast. He rolled behind a broken column, pivoted, sprinted into the smoke, and plunged his thermal blade through a third's abdomen, cleaving it in 2. 3 more dropped from the scaffolding above, in unison. He ducked, grabbed one midair, used it as a shield while he blew the others apart point blank. The body count rose, but so did their speed. They weren't retreating. They were learning. Every engagement lasted longer. Their movements adjusted. Their strikes grew smarter, more coordinated. So did his. He adapted. 30 minutes in, his ammo was nearly gone. The kinetic mesh had taken 2 hard hits. The next would break it. He ducked into the ruins of a collapsed Comes tower, breathing hard, eyes scanning. Then something new. A low mechanical hum, not Hechtel. He crept to the shattered window and saw it. Dozens of Hechtel advancing in formation, and behind them, a siege beast, bipedal, gigantic, its armor fused from shipwrecks and bone, limbs burned with repurposed thrusters. Its eyes glowed with furnace light. It moved with the certainty of a god. Well, Dean muttered. That's new. His visor buzzed. Drex command, distorted. Signal weak. What's your status? Outnumbered. Outgunned. Out of breath, Dean replied, tightening his grip on the blade. Same as usual. Do you need extraction? Dean didn't answer immediately. His eyes locked on the beast as it stomped forward, its weight shaking the earth. No, but tell command one thing. Go ahead. Next time someone jokes about gravity training, Dean said grimly, tell them this is what it was for. The siege beast let out a roar, terrible multi-toned shriek that made the very air tremble. The Hechtel surged forward, Dean rose from cover. His armor was cracked, his boot half melted. Ammo at 0. He sprinted straight into the horde, confirming the Drek's voice stammered in his ear. You are requesting no extraction. But Dean didn't reply. He was already in it. Charging through smoke and debris, he moved like gravity. Was an ally, not an enemy. Hechtel struck, he countered. A sharp elbow shattered one's skull. A snap kick caved in another's chest. He didn't stop, didn't hesitate. Blood and ash sprayed behind him like contrails. The siege beast loomed, larger. It raised a cannon arm, fused from ship scrap and biomechanical sinew. It fired. D&E dove behind a half-collapsed wall, just as the blast tore through 3 feet of alloy and vaporized everything beyond. He rolled, came up swinging. The thermal blade hissed to life in his hands. You like gravity games? He growled. Let's play one. He sprinted again, zigzagging between wreckage and plasma scars. The beast fired again, missed, reloaded. Dean scaled a crumbled support beam, launched himself mid-run, and plunged the blade into the beast's ankle joint. Sparks flew. It shrieked. Its tail whipped toward him. D&E ducked, lost his footing, rolled hard. 2 Hechtel lunged. He grabbed one, hurled it into the other, kicked the blade back into his grip in a fluid motion. Too slow. He ran up the beast's leg, using dense and fused debris as footholds. The biometal beneath him flexed, writhing. It tried to shake him loose. He stabbed into the knee for leverage, climbed further. Shots rang out from the ground Hechtel fire. They couldn't risk hitting the beast at the shoulder. Dean found a panel, an access port, a repurposed maintenance hatch buried beneath living metal. He tore it open. Inside pulsed the core fusion of organic tissue and mechanical heart. Breathing. Burning. He drove the blade into it. The beast roared. Its body convulsed. Metal snapped. Steam hissed. Dean yanked the blade out and stabbed again, this time twisting. The core exploded. He was thrown from its back, a human meteor trailing fire and broken armor. He hit the ground in a spray of ash, skidding nearly 20 feet before slamming into a twisted girder. Behind him, the siege beast collapsed in a flaming heap. Its limbs twitched, then lay still. Silence fell. The Hechtel froze. Dean rose slowly, his thermal blade shattered, armor blackened, shoulders heaving. He stared at them, daring them to try. They backed away, no command, no orders, just instinct. The entire swarm retreated. Federation orbital drones captured everything. The footage streamed instantly to secure channels across 12 systems, Drex, Javari, and beyond. All of them saw it. A lone human, scorched and bloody, dragging his broken armor through the battlefield, leaving corpses and craters behind like footprints in wet cement. When the Drex dropship finally landed, Dean was sitting on a slab of concrete, helmet off, soaked in sweat. He didn't rise, just held up a hand. Thumbs up. Broom was the first off the ramp. His usual military composure cracked. You destroyed it, he said, almost reverent. Yeah, Dean rasped. Took longer than I liked. You fought the entire swarm, alone. Would have gone faster with company, Dean muttered, gazing up at the sky. Broom looked at the wreckage, then at him. There were debates. They said humans were unstable, unpredictable, dangerous. Still true, Dean said, eyes closed. They said you shouldn't lead, that you can't be trusted. Dean gave a dry chuckle. Good thing I'm not in charge. But they also said, humans wouldn't last. Dean opened his eyes. Then maybe they need to triple the pressure again. Later, in the command chambers, they replayed the footage. No one interrupted. No one asked how he survived. They all just watched. Because it wasn't about tactics, or gear, or courage. It was a truth, frame by frame. If you turn gravity into a weapon, humans will turn it into a workout. If you throw a monster at Earth, Earth sends back something worse, and if you try to break a man from Earth, you'd better bring a planet to do it.